You ever lay awake at night, replaying a conversation you had 3 days ago, worrying about what someone might have meant by what they said? You ever shrink yourself to fit in a room because you're afraid of being judged for standing tall? If that's you, I need you to lean in close, because we're going to talk about something that's stealing your peace, one thought at a time. We're going to talk about the psychology of not caring, how to stop renting out real estate in your mind to people who haven't earned a damn key. Let me talk to you real plain for a second. There's a reason why your shoulders feel heavy when you wake up. A reason why your mind's racing even when you're sitting still. It's not the job. It's not the bills. It's not even what's happening around you. It's what's happening inside of you. You're carrying people, conversations, criticisms that have no business taking up space in your spirit. You're carrying the weight of wondering, what will they think? Over and over again until your own thoughts and even your own anymore. Now listen, caring isn't the enemy. It's a beautiful thing to care. That's what connects us. That's what makes us human. But caring too much about people who wouldn't cross the street for you, about opinions that shift with the wind, that's when you start paying a price you didn't even realize you agreed to. You give up your peace. You give up your clarity. You give up your voice just to stay in somebody else's good graces. And half the time, they ain't even thinking about you like that. There's science behind it too. This ain't just emotion talking. There was a study done a few years ago, real data, real brains being studied. Folks with social anxiety were shown to have heightened activity in the part of the brain that constantly evaluates how they're perceived. They're overthinking every move, every word, every silence. And what did that do? It made them sick. Sick in the body, sick in the mind, sick in the soul. Because when you obsess over what others think, you lose the ability to just be. Tell me this. How many times have you held back from doing something you felt deep in your gut because you were afraid of how it would look? How often have you stayed silent when your voice needed to be heard, all because someone might not approve? You ever had an idea, a good one, maybe even a life-changing one, and you just sat on it because you didn't want to risk the side eyes, the criticism, the whispers? That's not just fear. That's what happens when caring too much becomes a cage. You've got to pause and ask yourself, who exactly am I trying to impress? Whose opinion is so valuable that you'd silence your own dreams to protect their comfort? Because here's the truth. It's never everybody. It's a few voices, maybe one. And often it's a voice you gave power to a long time ago that never deserved it. People will talk whether you rise or fall, whether you do too much or not enough, whether you speak out or stay quiet. So if you're going to pay the emotional tax of caring, make sure it's for something real, something that feeds you, something that frees you. Anything less, it's just emotional debt. And you weren't born to live in debt. Let's get one thing straight. Choosing not to care what everybody thinks, that doesn't make you cold. That doesn't mean you've turned your back on love or compassion. It means you finally realize that your peace has a price and you've decided to stop giving discounts. See, people confuse boundaries with bitterness. They confuse silence with arrogance. But sometimes the quietest people in the room are the ones who've learned the hard way that not every battle deserves a soldier, and not every opinion deserves your energy. Being free means you've made a decision to stop handing out access to people who only show up to take drain, criticize, or project their own pain onto you. Not caring is not about shutting the world out. It's about opening the door for the right ones and closing it gently but firmly on the wrong ones. That's the difference. A wall is fear. A fence, that's wisdom. You've got to be selective with your heart. You don't throw your keys to just anyone walking down the street, right? So why do we do that with our emotions? Why do we hand out our attention, our trust, our vulnerability like it costs nothing? Let me tell you, it costs everything. Because when you care too much about the wrong voices, your spirit starts to shrink. You lose yourself trying to be who they want, say what they like, live how they expect. Before you know it, you're playing a role in someone else's script, and your name ain't even in the credits. There's power in learning how to filter what deserves your reaction and what doesn't. There's strength in letting silence speak for you. And there's freedom in saying, this isn't about being rude. This is about protecting what's sacred in me. Because when you know your worth, you start to guard your peace like it's treasure. And it is. Think about that story, you've heard it. Oprah Winfrey told she was too emotional, too sensitive, too real for television. Now imagine if she had believed that. Imagine if she had internalized it, let it define her. Where would she be? Where would we be? See, the moment she stopped letting their fear become her limitation, she became unstoppable. She didn't stop caring, she just stopped carrying their judgment. And that's what freedom looks like. You don't have to be ice cold to be in control. You just have to know where you end and the world begins. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your life. Some folks belong in the back, behind the curtain, or outside the theater altogether. And that's not cruel, that's clarity. You want peace, real peace? Then understand this: not caring what they think doesn't make you less human. It makes you finally human on your terms, not controlled, not caged, free. You ever stop and ask yourself, whose voice is that? That one that creeps in when you're about to step up, step out, speak up. The one that whispers, you're not ready, you're not enough. They're gonna laugh at you. See, sometimes the loudest voice in your head ain't even your own. It's an old recording, something somebody said to you years ago. Maybe they said it once, maybe they said it over and over until it sunk so deep you started calling it truth. But let me tell you something. Not every voice you hear deserves to be believed. Sometimes it's a parent. Maybe they were broken themselves. Maybe they didn't know how to love you the way you needed. So they criticized, they compared. They clipped your wings thinking they were protecting you from falling, not realizing they were keeping you from flying. Sometimes it's a teacher, the kind who forgot that their words carry weight. They pointed at your dream and laughed like it was a joke. And now every time you try to believe in yourself, you hear their laugh echoing inside your mind. Could be a boss. Told you you're not leadership material, that you don't have what it takes. And now you hesitate every time you're offered something bigger, better, more. And the saddest part, most of them are long gone, out of your life, out of your reach. But they're still in your head like ghosts whispering, shaping your decisions, making you play small. And you're still trying to prove them wrong, or worse, make them proud, like their opinion is divine law, like it has the power to name who you are. Let me tell you something, with all the love and all the truth I've got in me, they are not God. They don't get the final say. They don't get to decide your value. They don't get to chain you to a version of yourself that never got the chance to grow. See, Carl Jung said something powerful. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate, you'll call it bad luck. You'll call it just how I am. But really, it's just that you never stop to ask, where did this come from? It's time to do an audit, time to sit down and take stock. Every belief, every limitation, every time you shrink. Ask yourself, whose voice is that? And more importantly, do they deserve that kind of power over me? Because if they don't, if they never earned it, if they never protected your soul when it was fragile, then you owe it to yourself to let them go. Not with bitterness, not with rage, but with grace, with strength, with finality, because your mind is sacred ground, and not everyone gets to build there. There's a moment right between what happens to you and how you respond to it that most people ignore. It's small, it's quiet, but it's powerful. It's called the pause. And if you learn how to master that pause, you learn how to master yourself. See, the world's going to throw things at you. Disrespect, doubt, jealousy disguised as advice. People will come at you sideways, testing your spirit, pulling on your emotions like strings on a puppet, hoping you'll react the way they want so they can control the narrative. But you don't have to dance for them. You don't owe them that. What you owe yourself is discipline. We live in a time where everybody's racing to respond, texts flying, fingers typing, tweets dropping, comments clapping back. But fast doesn't always mean wise. Some of the worst decisions people make happen in seconds, not because they're bad people, but because they didn't pause long enough to let clarity catch up. When someone disrespects you, your instinct might be to fire back. Raise your voice. Put them in their place. But let me ask you this, what's the cost? What are you giving up in that moment? Your peace, your character, your power. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Not every insult requires a defense. Sometimes the strongest move isn't to fight, it's to stand still. Let them talk. Let them twist their face, raise their voice, question your choices, and you pause, you breathe, because in that space, you remind yourself who you are, not who they say you are, not who they want you to be when they poke at your pride, but who you know yourself to be. Maya Angelou said, never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. That applies to your energy too. Don't hand it out like loose change to people who only show up to take. You're not required to explain your path to everyone who doesn't understand it. If they can't see your vision, fine. If they don't get your growth, let it be. The pause gives you time to decide what's worth your words and what's better left in silence. The pause protects you from becoming reactive in a world that thrives on reactions. It keeps you from shrinking yourself to be palatable, from performing just to be accepted. It gives you the power to choose your response instead of letting your emotions choose for you. That's not weakness, that's control. That's maturity. That's leadership. So the next time someone tries to pull you out of your peace, take a beat, pause before you speak, before you defend, before you lower yourself to meet them in the chaos. Because in that pause, you reclaim the one thing no one can take from you unless you hand it over, your power. Here's the truth no one wants to tell you. Trying to be liked by everyone is the quickest way to lose yourself. People spend so much time molding themselves to fit into other people's expectations. They forget what it means to be authentic. They put on masks, perform roles, rehearse lines, all to earn approval, to dodge rejection, to avoid the sting of being left out. But here's the catch: you can't grow when you're performing. You can't build a life on a stage that's not your own. You got to show up as yourself, flaws, scars, dreams, all. If you want to stop giving people the power to live rent-free in your head, you have to do something radical. You have to redirect that energy. Stop worrying about their opinions, their judgments, their likes and dislikes, and start building you. Because the only person who's guaranteed to be with you through every high, every low, every twist and turn is you. The rest, they're just passing through. So get busy becoming someone you respect. That means showing up every day and investing in your growth. Maybe that looks like going to the gym. Not just to change your body, but to prove to yourself that you can commit, that you're worth the effort. Maybe it means picking up the books that challenge your mind. Expand your horizons, open your heart. Maybe it's starting that business you've been dreaming about, the one you hide from because you're afraid of failing or being judged. Or maybe it's healing, fixing relationships that have been broken by neglect, or having the courage to walk away from the ones that are breaking you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say, no more. No more toxic words, no more draining people, no more living for someone else's happiness at the cost of your own. And don't forget the quiet work, the prayers, the meditation, the moments you spend sitting with yourself, untangling the knots in your mind and soul. That's where real change happens. Because when you make peace with yourself, the noise of the outside world doesn't rattle you like it used to. You see, at the end of the day, when the lights go out and the world stops watching, your head hits the pillow, and who's lying there? Not them. Not their comments. Not the likes or the silence on social media. It's you. Just you. And if you haven't built a relationship with yourself, if you haven't earned your own respect and love, that night gets lonely real quick. But if you've done the work, if you've invested in becoming someone you can look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you, then none of their opinions can shake you, because you know your worth, you know your purpose, and you're no longer renting out space in your head to people who don't deserve the keys. So stop performing, start building, and watch how your life changes when you finally live for you. Now, before I let you go, I want to leave you with something that's deeper than words, a truth that you got to hold on to when the world tries to steal your peace. See, not caring. When I say not caring, I'm not talking about shutting down. I'm not talking about walking away from love, from kindness, from connection. No, I'm talking about standing up for yourself, about drawing a line in the sand and saying, I am done letting you dim my light. You see, every minute you spend worried about what they think, you're giving them power. Power to shrink your dreams. Power to mute your voice. Power to cage your spirit. But you were never meant to live small. You were born to shine, born to stand tall even when the winds of doubt and judgment try to knock you down. Choosing not to care in the right way, It means you've chosen peace over the exhausting act of performing for approval. You've chosen freedom over the chains of fear. You've chosen your future over the opinions that don't define you. Imagine walking through life with your mind as your temple, a sacred place untouchable by negativity, unshaken by criticism. Imagine speaking with a calm confidence because your peace is priceless, not negotiable. Imagine living every day with the unwavering belief that your worth was never up for debate, not by strangers, not by friends, not even by yourself. Because here's the real deal: the moment you stop letting people live in your head, that's the moment you finally get to move back in, to reclaim your space, to take control of your story, to live out loud and free, unburdened by the shadows of other people's judgments. That's where true freedom lives. That's where real happiness starts, and that's where you belong. So stand tall, speak your truth, guard your peace like it's the most precious thing you own, because it is. You owe it to yourself to live like the light inside you can't be dimmed, not by them, not by anyone. You are more powerful than you know, and it's time you start living like it.